Delighted to get a few minutes with Ayushi, who will be joining Renuity as a digital marketing analytics manager. Ayushi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Viraj.
Perfect. Let's start with a quick introduction. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Ayushi Saxena. I am a third culture girl. My path crossed three countries, Japan, India, and currently I'm in the US. I recently graduated from the MBA program at Duke University. I got a job as a digital marketing analytics manager at Renuity, which is a home improvement company in the US. And before that, I received my BTech in electrical and electronics engineering from SRM University, and I worked in Schneider Electric as a key account manager.
Perfect. And when did you start searching for full-time job opportunities while you were studying at Duke?
So I started my job search around 2 to 3 months after my orientation of the MBA program at Duke, which was in September 2021. It also depends on what type of job you want. For example, consulting job recruitment starts pretty early, so people have to gear up for it in advance. For me, I was looking for marketing or general management roles, and it took some time for me to decide what would work for me. So those jobs open up sporadically over the year.
Got it. But essentially, for your 2-year MBA program, as soon as you joined, within 3 months, you started searching for job opportunities. And was it internship at that time, or were you searching for like full-time opportunities right then and there?
Yes, so my journey was a bit different because I had like this dual degree program where I completed my master's of management studies and then the 1 year MBA program. But for the standard 2 year MBA students, it's like so it also depends on the job role. So consulting starts pretty early. So as you mentioned, yes, 2 to 3 months after the orientation. But then other roles open up after that. For example, tech roles or finance roles, and then you find an internship after a few months, and then that you can convert into a full-time role.
Got it. So how did you initially approach your job search? Again, for you, I'm assuming that because you were kind of new to the US, to the culture, the corporate culture in the US. What were your initial thoughts in regards to, like how you were approaching job search?
Yeah, the dreaded job search. That's an interesting question. And a lot of people scared me about this. Initially, I was a bit confused on what role to choose, which is completely fine. It's okay if you have no idea what you are going to do, because many people feel the same. They just don't show it.
Yeah.
I was just figuring out what I want to do, and then I started making a list of target companies, and at the same time, I was applying for the roles I was interested in the Job University portal and on LinkedIn.
Got it. So the first thing really was to kind of figure out what exactly is it that you are specifically looking for. So to
Yes.
have that clarity in regards to, okay, like these are the areas where my interests lie, and I want to make sure that I'm able to get a position in these particular areas. And then once you have that, things kind of fall into place, and then you apply through your university portal, through LinkedIn, to kind of go from there.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Now you have got a full-time opportunity. Congratulations. If you
Thank
are to
you.
look back now, would you have changed the approach you took for searching for jobs?
So I'm a firm believer of quality over quantity. And the one thing I would have changed was to apply to roles that would make me happy, because it is really easy to get into the rat race and get sunk in the noise around you rather than doing what you actually like.
Yeah.
I know it's easier said than done, and the path you might want will be difficult, but you will get there, because ultimately you should be happy in doing the job after graduation. And that way, I could have saved a lot of valuable time.
Got it. Okay. No, that's so true, because I think we all have that fear of missing out when we are looking at these experiences that we're having at an MBA program, and it's so important to fall back on what really matters to you personally, and kind of going from there. That's a great way of thinking about job search too. Um, what did you do to actually get the interviews from the companies you're applying for? Again, I guess we're going back to 3 years after your three months after your orientation, and you started self-reflecting. These are the opportunities that I want to look for. Maybe you apply online. Was there anything in particular that you were doing to get the interviews from the companies you applied for?
Yes, so I did the three basic things that everyone must do. So first is network with employees or hiring managers in your target companies. Second is to apply to jobs on your university portal. And third is not just to rely on the first two steps
Yeah.
and apply on other platforms like LinkedIn. I have heard so many people getting jobs on at least one of these steps. So it's better to do all the three steps and increase your chances even further.
Wonderful, wonderful. And if you were to look back now, would you have done something different, or would you have changed the approach you took to get the interviews from the companies you applied for?
In retrospect, I don't think I would have changed the way I was applying. The only thing I would have changed are the roles I was applying to. And as I said before, quality over quantity always prevails. It's not helpful at all to apply to roles which aren't a good fit for you or
Yeah,
doesn't match your skill set.
that makes sense. That makes so much sense. How did you prepare for the interviews that you got through your journey?
So at my business school, which is called FUPA, they provided a lot of resources in the courses you take, in the college clubs, the career management center for different industries and job roles. I also spoke to FUPA alumni who worked in my target companies or in my target roles and got a lot of invaluable information. Also, in a Web 4.0 world, there's so much information that the internet has to offer through YouTube or blogs or newsletters. So the more you prepare, the more chances you have to ace an interview.
Absolutely. And if you are to reflect back on your interview preparation journey, was there anything that you would have done differently?
I feel I could have learned a lot more from the resources than I did and be more focused in a particular area that I was interested in rather than trying to fit into a glass mold that doesn't fit me.
Wow, wow, that's an incredible way of looking at not just how to approach the job search, but also to actually prepare for the interviews. That's just phenomenal. Let's pivot towards some company specific questions. How did you come across your specific role of digital marketing analytics manager at your company Renuity?
Sure. So I came across a leadership development program at Renuity for MBA graduates on the university job portal. I
Okay.
found it pretty interesting and I applied for the role. A few days later, I got a call from the corporate recruiter. So for this company, I thankfully I didn't have to network that much.
Got it, got it, got it. Okay, so yeah, I think that kind of brings us to the next question in regards to how you got the interview for this role. So it was just through applying online for that leadership development program, and then from there,
Yes.
got it.
Yeah, so after applying to the role on the university job portal, I spoke with the corporate recruiter. He explained about the role, and it seemed like a good fit.
Mhm.
So I went on to subsequent rounds. I got interviews in other companies through networking with people in the same team or in a leadership position in the same department. So I would say, as I mentioned, the three steps, do follow it, even though you have an interview from a company.
Still, yes, still you have to rely on your fundamentals and kind of keep pushing, even though you of
Exactly.
course have an opportunity in front of
Yeah.
you. What was the interview process like for this role?
So there were many interviews for Renuity specifically. There are various kinds and number of rounds that companies have. For Renuity specifically, my first interview started in November till April, and the rounds are quite interesting. They had their very first MBA leadership program. So I had three interview rounds virtually, and then I was called to their office in Miami to interview with the CEO, the Chief Growth Officer, VP of HRC, marketing, and the managers in the team.
Mhm.
The rounds were mostly about my experience in the past few years, courses and projects at Duke. and how I can provide value to the company in the future. I felt the rounds were a great way to know everyone in the leadership team and to know more about the company, and for us to discuss what the role will suit me best.
Understood. Understood. No, that's a great way of looking at interviews, because I think a lot of times we have this mentality that interviews is just a one way street where whoever the company is just going to ask you a bunch of questions and you kind of have to respond to that. But really, it's a two-way street where you actually get to know about the company too, and it's not just that like you actually want this job. You actually have to ask them, okay, like what are the things that makes your company stand out, perhaps, or like like what exactly the role is all about. And if it's not a fit, so be it. But if it is, that's a great that's a great way to kind of move ahead. So yeah, that's a great point actually. It's a two-way conversation rather than one-way conversation. How long after your interview did you get the full-time offer?
So after the first interview in November 2021, I actually got the offer in April 2022, and it seems like a long time, but I had three interviews before the in-person interview rounds with some gaps in between. And I feel even though it took some time, it was worth it. But on an average, other companies have about 4 rounds.
4 rounds, got it. And typically, yeah, because even if I was to reflect back on the experiences that I've heard other people talk about, it's typically like once you're done with the interview, like in like a few weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks max, you'll get to know whether it's in or out. But for some companies, like especially companies that may not have like a structured way of going about recruiting, there's a lot of ambiguity and there's a lot of variation in regards to when you get the full-time offer. And of course,
Correct.
because you were eventually going to graduate in May,
Mhm.
it's just I guess from a company standpoint also it might make sense that they know that, okay, like you will be stuck with your schoolwork up until May, so it's just easier for the company to make sense. Um, any last piece of advice for any international student who comes to the US for an undergrad, for a master's, for an MBA, and who hopes to find a full-time opportunity?
Yes, so to all the listeners here, don't give up hope even if you have completed an interview in the beginning and don't hear from them in a while. Do not stop applying for jobs, but most importantly, apply to jobs that suit your interest or skill sets. Even though you get hundreds of rejections, you just need that one shot, which you will get, and then you're done with the dreaded recruiting process.
That's an incredible piece of advice. Ayushi, thank you so much for your time.